Hello and welcome everyone to Why People Buy Trust at the Core. I'm Vanessa Topazer. I'm an SVP at IMI International. Thanks so much for joining. There are, I know, a number of people that are joining today that have been joining our content series for the last little while. And for those that have not, just a little bit about IMI International, we're an insight and strategy partner helping organizations, marketers, brands, businesses make really smarter and stronger decisions by turning complex consumer and market intelligence into clear direction that really drives growth. And that's what we're here to talk about today, because trust is a core driver of growth for brands and for organizations. It's one of the top themes that we've been talking about in this series completely, but it's a word that's been thrown around a lot. And because the word is thrown around a lot, we get a lot of questions about, what does it really mean for me? Does it actually matter for me? How do I build trust? What deters trust? And all of those great questions that marketers and business owners have. And so what we wanted to do was dig into it and bring it to you and bring to the forefront all of the insight that you really need to make strong decisions. So today we're going to talk about the impact and the size of trust. Most trusted brands. We're going to dive into some of the most trusted brands, and this is right now. So this is insight that we were in market getting at the beginning of February from Canadians, but also Americans. But much of the insight that you're going to see today is Canadian. Industries where trust concentrates, so that you can understand from your vantage point what trust might look like for you, and industries where trust does not concentrate. So also really interesting to see where trust does not show up in the industries and the brands mentioned. And then we'll talk a little bit about why. And then today we're going to toe dip into the drivers of trust. But we're going to get into that a little bit more deeply next week. We're going to be back with another LinkedIn Live, and we'll tell you a little bit about that afterwards. So at a really high level, so you can see where trust actually lies within the brand purchase continuum, is that there are 12 core themes that drive purchase. There's product and brand specific, there's wellness, there's delivery, there's digital, emotional, promotional, influence. I mean, we talk a lot about influencers, and we dived into that as well when we looked at our Gen Z cohort that we have a ton of insight into. In-store, sample interaction, recommendation and review, social media, and traditional media as well. Now, the reality is that there are so many different levers as it relates to the marketing mix that you can either lean into or not lean into, depending on your vantage point, or also depending on where you are in the cycle and what you're looking to do. So if you have any questions on any of these, please give me a shout. Happy to talk through any of them. We have a ton of insight on each to help make strong decisions. But today, we're going to talk about trust. 71% of North Americans have made a purchase due to trust in the past 12 months, and that's ages 13 to 63. Trust rings true across Canada, across the United States, across Mexico. Now, this is 71 for North America in totality, but if we look at Canada specifically, it's just about 70. If we look at the United States specifically, it's just about 71. And then in Mexico, it's actually even greater. And so trust is a core purchase driver. And would you trust this guy? I'm not really sure. Maybe that's for a whole different conversation. So let me just see if the slides will move forward. There we go. So now I'm actually going to throw it to you guys, because I want to hear from you and hear your thoughts on, what do you think the most trusted brand for Canadians specifically right now are? And this is unaided. So this is, I'll let you comment. A, Canadian Tire, B, Apple, or C, Nike. Now, this is, to put it into context, this is Canadians right now. So this is in February in Canada, who Canadians are saying are the most trusted brand right now. So I'll give you a couple of seconds to type in your answers. And we've had a lot of discussion about this internally as well. Canadian Tire really shows up in a lot of the work that we do. And so we see Canadian Tire coming up. And of course, they are a very trusted Canadian brand. Apple is really ingrained in many people's lives, in a lot of our lives as well. And so that's also been a conversation of ours within the office. And then Nike has been a brand that's been around for a long time and focuses in on a number of different areas and impacts our life in so many different ways. So we see a lot of Canadian Tire coming up. And I'm obviously not surprised. Canadian Tire again. Well, why don't we see who it is? It's actually Nike. So sorry to say that you are not correct about the most trusted brand, but you are correct in the fact that Canadian Tire is in there. And so if we look at the top trusted brands, this is the top 10. Nearly 1 in 5 Canadians name Nike without prompting at all. Apple and Amazon follow closely, reinforcing that ecosystem reliability and delivery consistency are actually foundational to trust in 2026. And what I also want to show here is that, well, we have the rank and we have the brand and we have the share, the year founded. A lot of these brands that are the most trusted are ones that were founded many, many years ago, and the country founded. They're American, they're international, and they're also Canadian. So just park that for a minute and we'll come back to it. But I just wanted to highlight those key areas. Now, this is the top 10 brands. Now, we always say at IMI International that learning from the best is where we should all start. And it doesn't mean because you're a small brand or a medium brand, we work with small brands and medium brands all the time, that you can't gain trust and that you don't have a place in the world. You do. These are brands that have just been building trust for many, many years, and they've been doing it very consistently and thematically. And so you, as a smaller or a medium-sized brand or a challenger brand, you can be in the same position. You just put one foot in front of the other and keep going consistently, get your message out there, and you can gain the trust. So let's look at Nike just for a second. It's the lead. It's not just about apparel. Consumers trust Nike to work. So there's the quality and there's innovation, but also represent who they are. So there's an identity part of Nike. When we look at Apple, their trust is very quiet. It's very systemic, and it's deeply embedded in our everyday lives. Consumers trust Apple to reduce complexity and not introduce it, and they deliver all the time. Now, PC is a very interesting story because they've really reframed private label from a cheap alternative, which private label started out as, to the smart choice. So trust comes from the consistent delivery across food, across household, and across lifestyle when it relates to PC. And obviously right now for Canadians, Canadian ownership reinforces the relevance, but performance and value sustain that trust. And then Canadian Tire, that's who everybody seemed to vote for. Its trust is deeply contextual and distinctly Canadian. Now, if you think about Canadian Tire, it's a brand that's embedded in life moments. So home repairs, emergencies, seasonal needs, everyday life. And when you look at Walmart, their trust is really pragmatic. It's not necessarily emotional. I mean, there is emotion in economic security, absolutely. But the trust here is about security, being able to rely on fair pricing and availability. And so consumers may not admire Walmart, but they depend on it. And trust isn't only about admiration, trust is about dependability. Now, this is ranked 11 to 25. You can see trust in Canada is both global and it's local. Canadian brands dominate the everyday categories: grocery, banking, apparel, and retail. And this is only 11 to 25. And we're going to have the complete list for you in IMI's Trusted Brand Playbook that we're going to give you the link to be able to download it right after we're done with the talk. But you can see here that some of the brands, there's Tim Hortons, is a highly trusted brand. It's Canadian. Toyota, Lululemon, Google, Coke, Pepsi, Kraft. Are any of these surprising to you? Are any of these shocking to you? I mean, we were a little bit surprised that the most trusted brands right now are not all Canadian. But is there anything here that stands out for you in terms of what you're seeing and what you might have been thinking from your vantage point? Now, Kraft is showing up there. 1903 is the year that Kraft was founded. It's a long time to build trust. No Name is there. So again, that's taking private label to a whole other dimension. Coca-Cola and RBC. RBC was one that we were really interested in because we weren't sure whether a trusted brand will also be an institution and a financial institution at that. So really trust is earned through consistency over time, reduction of risk or uncertainty, and having a meaningful presence in everyday life. And so it's not necessarily about admiration. It's not about most wanted. It's not about anything else than consistency, reduction of risk, and meaningful presence in everyday life. So now let me ask you this, which category is most represented in trusted brands list? Oh, and we see some surprises, including lots of American brands. Yeah, in the top 20 in spite of current events. Oh, and a question, has this changed year over year? Not really. The reality right now is that there are some Canadian brands that are showing up a little bit more. We do have a full report on Canadian sentiment right now, and we can put that in the chat if people are interested in downloading that. Now, the Canadian sentiment right now is that people want to purchase Canadian, but Canadian shows up in so many different shapes and forms. So you don't have to be only made in Canada. You can be supporting Canada, be ingrained in Canadian lifestyle, be ingrained in Canadians' lives for the long haul. And so haven't seen much change in some of the tried and true brands that are really showing up. But it's a good question because the medium-sized brands and the challenger brands that are starting to see some traction are the ones that are talking about being more ingrained in Canada right now, because we know that that is absolutely essential. And then surprised that, above PC, that is surprising. I mean, listen, the continuum here is very consistent. It's very small. Now, these are unaided. These are not aided lists. Usually what you'll see in an aided list is that the separation between them will be larger, but because they are unaided, there is a plethora and they are fairly close together. So they would rank very close to the same. So which category is the most represented in the trusted brands list? Do you think it's apparel? Do you think it's food and beverage? Do you think it's tech? Now, spoiler alert, I did show you some of the brands, but before, so, maybe you've calculated them on your own already, but are we looking at apparel? Are we looking at food and beverage? Or are we looking at tech in terms of the categories that are most represented in the trusted brands list? What do you guys think? And again, there's a lot of conversation in our cohort as well, and with some of our clients that we gave a sneak peek of this too. So we have B, we have C, we have A, food and beverage, I hope. Yes. Yeah, soft spot for that one, definitely. A, apparel. See if any others come in. really good guesses. And across the spectrum, we're looking at A. So Sebastian, I'm going to call you out there. You got that one right. So we're looking at apparel. The most represented in the trusted brands list is apparel. So when we grouped the top 50 brands by industry, there are really clear patterns that emerge. Retail, fashion, food and beverage. So we're not wrong in food and beverage or in retail. So a little bit of a trick there. But apparel did rise to the top. We're looking at apparel as, household trust, daily consumption, and you can see the brands that were mentioned there. So Nike, Adidas, Puma, Under Armour. Under retail, it's values, it's access, it's reliability. And then under food and beverage, it's identity and lifestyle and cultural relevance. And so you can see the brands that are listed there as well that really roll up to the top. And I can see that, Sebastian, yep, you're the winner. Kat, thanks as well. She also put the Canadian Sentiment Report for February 2026 in the chat. So you can download it at your leisure and you can see what Canadians are really thinking right now and what they're looking for from brands and businesses right now as well. Now, the next level of brands that were mentioned and categories that rose to the top are tech, financial services, automotive, and then beauty and specialty retail. Obviously, there is a huge beauty boom happening right now, and Sephora is showing its face as one of the most trusted brands right now. So looking at tech, it's really about ecosystem reliability and convenience, institutional stability for financial services, and automotive is durability and safety. So we can continue to see that the core themes of being in people's lives, being that consistent play, being part of their ecosystem, having that convenience is really what drives trust. So while lots of people and marketers talk about it's about inspiration and it's about admiration, there is a component of that because there will be the lifestyle and, how do I look and how does it perceive me? Does it make me feel good? But really it's that value, it's the consistency, and it's the reliability, and being part of everybody's everyday life is what really drives trust. So if as a small and a medium brand, if you're not one of the big ones, if you're one of the bigger brands, you need to keep the trust. If you're a small, medium brand, then you can build it over time, step by step. So if we really bring this up to the top, apparel is the most represented category by brand count, really tied to identity and lifestyle. It's not the institutions necessarily, it's what they mean for them. Retail and CPG is really about the function and everyday brands. Financial brands that, while they're underrepresented, 3 banks made the top 48. So indicates the institutional trust is present, but it's not dominant, but it is important. And while tech were the lowest of the brands mentioned, they do punch above their count. Apple and Amazon alone representing 25% of the total trust share. So some interesting conversations, some interesting surprises. Think about it from your vantage point and what that actually means for you. And when you really dial it up, trust grows where risk declines. So just think about that for a minute. It grows where there's less risk of entry and risk of usage. So trust really clutters around daily usage, identity brands, ecosystem reliability, as well as consistent value delivery, each and every touch point. So the last thing we're going to look at is industry breakdown. Where does trust not concentrate? Rarely mentioned in industries most trusted are streaming and entertainment, EV, pure electric, automotive, and telecommunications. So automotive was mentioned, but not EV specifically. And there's something really interesting in there because many people look at the fact that like EV and sustainability, and being better to the environment is going to drive trust. It's not really showing up right now when we look at the most trusted. And streaming and entertainment, it's not about entertaining. It's about consistency over time, and telecommunications as well. It's essential in high usage, but very low on emotional trust. I'm just going to make sure my speaker is working. There we go. Now, also in there is insurance, completely absent, very notable. It's a high risk category. And so, it's really invisible unless something goes wrong. When it comes to airlines, Air Canada appears occasionally, no WestJet prominence right now at all that we're seeing in this moment in time. But airlines are experience driven and not for daily use. And those really are the trust anchors. And healthcare and pharma are virtually absent. And so if you're looking at your world, if you're in healthcare and pharma right now, how do you make sure that you build that trust with your consumers so you do make that trust list, because you're not top of mind? Now, we do have a comment here saying, can you comment on what drives trust in not-for-profits? That's a really good question. We do a lot of work in not-for-profit and in cause. The biggest thing with not-for-profits is transparency and being very clear on what you are delivering and to whom. And so if you're in a not-for-profit seat, or if you're looking to partner with a not-for-profit, being very clear on what need you deliver and to whom will help drive your trust, and being very clear on the transparency of where your funding is going, but also how much of your funding is actually going to the cause versus other things will help drive your trust. And we have so much more on that as it relates to cause and charity that I'm happy to have a conversation on it, or send you some decks that you can look through at your own convenience. And I hope that answers the question. Let me know if not, and I can go a little bit deeper into it. So really the reality is trust is earned when a brand feels like it protects you. It doesn't just entertain you. And so if you think about that from a personal perspective, think about the people around you that you trust. Think about the things that are in your life that you trust. You have a feeling of protection, not just entertainment. So it's not just about aspiration, it's about protection. And to build trust in Canada, in the United States, as well as in the UK, it takes about 5 years to build it. But it can take just a couple of things to break it down. So if you are a bigger brand, you really need to protect your trust. What will happen if you do lose trust? There's probably about 65% that will likely come back to you. 30% if you give them something. 30% or 35% if you actually, say you're sorry and you own up to it. And that's the authenticity side of things. And then there are some that just won't come back to you. But if you are a strong brand that has strong brand trust, they are more likely to come back into your fold if you have lost the trust. But the reality is look to protect it, because it takes a lot of resources to try to get it back. And in this economy right now, and with what we are working against, and we're tighter on budgets, we're tighter on people, we're higher on productivity, knowing exactly what you need to do and protecting it is absolutely essential, so that you don't leave money on the table, because who wants to do that? So as leaders think about 2026 and beyond, the question's no longer, do consumers trust us? Do customers trust us? The question is, are we earning more trust than we did last year? Are you building it? And are you not losing it? Are you absolutely retaining that trust at every touch point? So think about that from your perspective. And again, as a smaller and medium-sized brand, it's one foot in front of the other. Who do you have trust with? Who trusts you the most? How can you home in on that target? And then how can you have them help drive your momentum? Because that's organic leads. And that is incredibly effective for your ROI. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about trusted transaction, what actually makes Canadians trust a brand enough to buy today. Now, we talked about pragmatic action, and at IMI, we are very much about getting the insight, but we're very much about how do you actually turn this into solutions and pragmatic action, and what do you need to do about it? Because insight is only as good as what it is used for and how you use it and what you do with it. It's not really good just sitting in charts. So join us next week where we're going to talk about what actually makes Canadians trust a brand enough to buy today. We have 20 core themes that we're going to be diving into, and it's actually things that you can action right now. So while trust overall needs to be part of your strategy for, short term, medium term, and long term, these are drivers that can help drive your trust right now. So for Canadians, it's made in Canada, made locally, and consumer rating. So it's really about proximity and proof that our core focus to gain trust with Canadians. For Americans right now, it's authentic, it's all natural, and it's best price anywhere. So that conviction and value drive trust in the US right now. And these are really at the very highest. There are many other phrases and messages and positions that drive trust. The top deterrents right now are also really interesting because it's important to understand what drives, but it's also really important to understand what not to do, and sometimes even more important to know what not to do and what to avoid. So for Canadians, it's developed with AI. That's not going to drive trust right now. Founded in 2020, it's a little new, and made in the USA right now is not going to drive trust with Canadians. So newness and IMI and AI suppress trust, and foreign origin, especially with the US right now, does weaken it. But as we did see, there are US brands that are very strong in Canada because they are ingrained in the Canadian fabric and with Canadians. And for Americans, it's endorsed by an influencer, a lot of questions about influencer marketing, and especially around the Gen Z insight that we've been diving into. And influencers are very important, especially to Gen Z, but it's who the influencer is and what they're doing that's essential. Founded in 2020 as well, and then developed with AI. So again, that newness is showing up as something that's going to deter trust right now. So join us. So download the Trusted Brand Playbook, the essential guide to turning trust into transaction. In this playbook, we have the size and impact of trust. We have the most trusted brands, industries where trust concentrates. So a little bit more about what we talked about today, where they don't concentrate. And again, more than what I talked about today, the top drivers of trust. But in the playbook that you can get right now, if you download it, and I believe that Kat's going to put it into the chat, is the Canadian Trust Framework, where we have 23 themes right now. We'll bring them to life next week, but we were so excited to deliver them to you that we wanted you to have them at your fingertips right now. So if you download the playbook, you will see them and you can action them right now. And then for those that want to join us next week for part 2, it's going to be 20 messaging themes that drive trust right now. And so look out for that invite. I'll just be bringing it to life, but you can download it and read it at your leisure. And let me just see before we sign off if there are any other questions in here. Does pharma trust performance change as it relates to their B2C brands? Oh, I see. So the reality is that we didn't see even any of the pharma brands showing up in the most trusted. And yes, at a brand level, you will see more trust than at a overarching pharma level. And so it depends on the brand that you're talking about. And it depends on, the needs that they fit within the consumer set. But we didn't see any brands come up unaided for consumers right now. It's really not in their mindset because, again, it's more of a when I need you. It doesn't mean that they are not trusted, but it's not going to be top of mind because it's not in their everyday lifestyle unless it is. And then that's a specific cohort. But we have more insight onto that. If you want to dive into that deeper, you know where to reach me. So we'll sign off for today. Hope you can join us next week. Please download the report. There's a lot of really great insight we were really excited to share with you, and follow along for all the content that we're going to be releasing again this year on why people buy, so that you have really pragmatic insight to chart your way forward and fuel growth. And again, if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out. I always love a great conversation on brand. My email is right there, or you can catch me on LinkedIn. Thanks so much, and have a great rest of your day.